All righty, we are live. All right, everybody, we are actually live. This is a good thing. Been waiting to be live for an awful long time. I think this is about the second or third week that this is happening in this fashion, and I'm getting ready to contact a few more wonderful people because they need to be on and know that this is on. So I hope I remember everybody. I'm Brother Francis Z. Revels-Bey. I am the founder of this podcast called Clear Blue Radiance here on Resonant Essentials Esoteric School of Metaphysics, their YouTube channel. And when you don't see me here, then I'm on my own channel, Circle of Grace One, as well as live on Facebook, which I did once or twice already. So we have a very interesting topic today. It's called Your Thoughts May Not Be Your Thoughts. Use meditation to claim your mind, body, spirit matrix. And I want everyone to be able to gain something from this. So I'm going to do my best to get this information out to a few more people by way of email. One of the things I wanted to let you all know that this is a golden opportunity. We're in what they call the fall season, according to Gregorian calendar time. Perhaps around the world, it's comes up in different ways. We're going to find ourselves, if we already notice, time has sped up, literally, man-made time. And I think, in some respect, that's a good thing because all of us are moving forward right now. We're trying to find better ways to be better people on this planet. And I had another topic in my mind today, but this one seems to be the strongest one. The other topic I had in my mind that I might do a little later came from listening to the late John Lennon's music. John Lennon was I believe he played guitar with the old Beatles, with Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr and George Harrison, who played guitar. Paul McCartney was a bass player, and I didn't even know one of my high school students became a good friend of, not high school, but college students became a good friend of Paul McCartney over the years. This guy, he's always very quiet, but very, very unique in his own way. He's an author. He was a filmmaker in college, and he graduated from Bard in 1976, and I graduated from Bard in 1974, Bard College, BARD, upstate New York, Annandale-on-Hudson, New York. Anyway, I was listening to uh, John Lennon, who played guitar, I was listening to his tune, which was Imagine. Imagine all the people, right? And then another tune that came out what in my mind was Dionne Warwick's tune, if I can remember. It dealt with love and how the world needed more of that love. And then I thought about the late Marvin Gaye, who had a tune back in the 70s called What's Going On. And just to spend time listening to those tunes was bringing forth a lot of information. Comes to mind Dionne Warwick's tune, What the World Needs Now is Love, Sweet Love. So I was listening to those tunes earlier today, and maybe I might do a write up, a podcast on them. What is so significant about those tunes and other tunes, they are not the only ones, is that they portrayed and they planted the seed and they gave us a remembrance of love. How people need to get back to loving themselves. So many people are misguided by their anger, things that they were taught that they weren't born with, but somewhere down the line, this seed of anger and destruction of other people and self destruction through drugs and so forth has definitely been hurting humanity for a long time. So I might put together a metaphysical, spiritual topic on that maybe next week or the weeks to come. But I wanted to make sure that I inform people that I'm on right now. Uh, I'm always hearing how I should be doing this the night before. Somehow I keep forgetting to do it the night before. So, this is an opportunity for us to get this information that I'm putting out. And hopefully, it will resonate with you on some level. Now, let me get this link in, and then we could go further with today's program. I wanted to share this particular topic today because so many of us are seeing how children, adults, and other people are being controlled not only by the news media, but all kinds of diversive, inappropriate music. But even sometimes with that, we don't understand when like musicians go into a studio. There used to be just four tracks back in the day. I'm talking about I think back there in the 40s and the 50s, it was like four tracks. And then somewhere down the line, someone said, hey, we got this board, engineering sound board, and now we got eight tracks. And now we got 16 tracks. And now we got 24 tracks. And what all these tracks are for? Tracks are supposed to be used to give additional sound effects of other instruments, depending on how many instruments are being utilized in a particular song. And then you got the background voices as well as the lead voice, okay? And the engineer, sound engineer, can sit there and kind of manipulate all these things and kind of get them all together, literally at the same time. And so the reason why I came up with this today to talk more about this is because we're always being bombarded by information, but we're unaware that sometimes we are being bombarded where our minds are being influenced, where our brains are being influenced and our bodies are being manipulated with subliminal stuff. Now, there was a time, and it's still good now, when people used subliminal cassette tapes back in the day. So you could hear a person, let's say, do a guided meditation, and then in the background, unbeknownst to you, would be some voices, male voices and female voices, repeating some of those same statements that you would hear on the top layer. But in essence, when most of it was done with music up front, four tracks maybe of music, solid music up front, and then tracks 5 and 6 have subliminal, meaning messages under the radar of your subconscious mind, where people are feeding information to you. Now, people do that for like hypnosis, where they're also trying to assist you in overcoming cigarette smoking, overeating, anger, depression, feeling melancholy, having low self esteem. And people would be saying positive things. And the way they had it set up was one track is going into the left headset, and another positive pieces of information are going into the right side of your headset. Well, that was quite some awesome way of being able to help someone in a very subliminal way so that when they come out of that hypnotic state or meditative state, or just being aware and listening to the subliminal music messages going on, that they would eventually respond in a very positive way in their own life. But we've also have realized over the years that that doesn't necessarily happen. There are many, I'll say, organizations that have somehow gained control over the human brain and allowed them to manipulate the thoughts and feelings and sometimes characteristics and self esteem of other people who listen to this material. And they've applied it in the military and all sorts of things so that soldiers become fearless and soldiers act on certain responses. At one point, if I'm not mistaken, during the problem with 9/11, they had something called sleepers. Sleepers, Sleeper. And what were the sleepers? Well, the sleepers were programmed ahead of time, many, many, many years, to respond to certain code words. And those certain code words would put them into motion to perform destruction. Not just a person moving around uh, without knowledge, but having a certain set of knowledge on the inside that they don't really have control over. So if they're listening to certain voices over and over and over again within a speech, there's certain trigger words, and those trigger words could get them to follow out certain commands. So some people were being triggered to do destructive things, being not just someone calling them over a phone, but someone speaking to them in a generalized format, but in a specific way, and then with certain keywords that were certain commands that those people had learned several years prior, and that would get them to react and get them to follow through on a situation that could be self destruction or destroying a lot of people. Because you can't, some people probably say, well, I can do that. No, a lot of people were being manipulated to do that. They had no self awareness of that. So they had no idea that they were being manipulated by other people to form such a task. And in any event, it's very hurtful because a person doesn't know that they're being manipulated like that to go forth and do something like that, and then totally unaware what the heck to do about that, right? So people didn't have an idea, people didn't have a clue. And so often we are all unaware that these things are happening. And I'm almost done. I think I got one more person here. But one of the things I wanted to I wanted to bring that to the forefront because many times we're unaware of being totally manipulated. When someone can gain control over your mind without your knowledge and then get you to do something that you don't even want to do, that's pretty deep, right? That means someone is controlling you at all areas. So you got to watch, you got to listen, you got to find ways to take care of yourself. And if not doing so, you find yourself kind of falling in to these issues. Now I got that email out. Kind of late, but I got it out. So, your thoughts may not be your thoughts. So, can you go back in time just a little bit with me to think about why your thoughts may not and how these different apparatuses came to be? Do you remember that back in the 1930s, most people got bombarded by what? They only had a simple newspaper, hand printed newspaper going around town. Colonial times had them, even other times had them before those times. Then, as time sped up, in the 1930s, people just had, for the most part, a radio in their house. When they had a radio in their house, they had to do what? They had to use this to kind of imagine also what the news person or the particular program is talking about, is describing to the audience who's not in the studio with them. Now, sometimes they did put a studio up, some people, so that it would make it a little bit more comfortable for the speaker or speakers to be able to get out their message. In the late 1940s was the insertion of black and white television. That was the thing. Hey, you remember the only time you could see a moving picture that moved kind of fast was to go into a movie theater way before then. And back then, the movies weren't like smooth, right? They were like jumpy, and everything was like moving really fast. Figures moving really fast, and maybe they didn't have much sound. So you didn't hear the people speak. You had to basically watch their actions and then get an idea of what they're doing. And then in the 1960s, colored programs for TV, colorization. I remember watching. We had our own ritual on a Sunday night. Sunday night was watching what Ozzie and Harriet, right? That's what we watched on a Sunday. And then after that, we no maybe that was a Saturday because the big thing after that was eating ice cream. So on a Sunday, we got a chance to watch the Walt Disney cartoons, and they were colorizations, meaning the scenes had some basic colors in it, in the outfits and the appearances for the characters. And as time went on, they got better and better and better, where you can look at Pixar and all these other things that you can see on the internet, how intricate the colors are for each one of the little cartoon characters. And then by the late 1960s, going into the early 70s, the internet came into play. And you got a chance to see the internet. And it's look how advanced it is now. 60 years, over close to 60 years, and look what we're doing now. We can communicate with each other around the world. That's what they call it, the World Wide Web. And there are many people that had to do with the invention of that. And you could research them out. Even around what the 80s, we had the pagers, and you can get information on your pager. It would just buzz, and you see a phone number, or some of the pages were made so you can see like a little bit of news coming across. All the time, you still had magazines, newspapers, gazettes, and smaller magazines, right, where you can read information all the time. And of course, you had books, and then later, paperback books. And then we stepped up into desktop computers. And back in the day, you saved up to $3,000 just to get that desktop computer in your house. And then eventually, you went from the floppy disk to the hard disk to a disk. And how many of you remember, especially with America Online, better known as AOL, I think they're still out, they would sell you a disc that you could pick up at any supermarket, sometimes at a pharmacy, stationery store, and other stores. You can get these discs that would say, get 750 free hours of the internet. And then once it was over, you had to sign up and get a subscription to be online for, forever if you want it to be. Did you ever think 750 hours? That's a long time. That's spending 24 hours a day for 30 days straight without cutting off your computer. That's 750 hours roughly of free internet. on AOL, and then there was EarthNet, and then there, later Opt Online, and all these other places. Hey, Holly, yeah, and you'd be mesmerized. Why? Because you could get all this stuff that you were now seeing that you didn't have to go to a library, you didn't have to turn on the radio, you didn't have to turn on the TV. Now you got your own little personal screen, and you could sit there and absorb all this information. The only thing about it, every now and then, there would be a virus in there. Or some hacker learned how to trigger the virus, make you click on it, and it froze your computer, and they were gaining all your data. And we're still dealing with that today. There's no accidents that, banks talk about it all the time, but they don't tell you right off the bat. They tell you after they get it under control. Oh, we had a data breach. Data breach, where yeah, someone broke in to the central bank's computer and now lifted all this information out. Got people's debit cards, credit cards, some of their things that they were buying, lifted their names specifically, and then what? Went out and bought things off of that person's card and made that person responsible. Well, after desktop PCs, personal computers, came the portable PCs. Like I got right here, laptop, 17-inch screen. So I could see things a little bigger. But most of the laptops were what, 13, 14, 13-inch, 14 and a half, and 15. Maybe that was the biggest. And then about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, 17-inch screen. And then, of course, the big, massive screen that you could sit on your desk and plug it in to your laptop. Now you can really see everything big. I'm comfortable with 17. I don't need people seeing too much behind me. But just to say that all of these things have been presented to us. So then you got the laptops, the notebooks as they call them. Oh, iPads, right? And Kindle notebooks. So now you can read your book in a Kindle format or read it on your laptop, or now you can read it on your phone. At the same time, you got all that radiation, hitting your eyeballs, getting into your retina. And so but you're mesmerized by this information 24/7. I even find it very hard to get off the phone. I have trained myself, for the most part, to cut off my phone. Better yet, leave it here in the living room by my desk. That way, I'm not waking up in the middle of the night looking through my phone, where seeing who's sending me an email. Like all this political stuff. You sign up for one thing to make a donation and you make a mistake, and I've done it, put my phone number in. Now everybody's texting me. Oh, look at this, look at that. Oh, I need you to donate $1 here, $5 here, $3 here. Oh, give a tip. I need you to do this, 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 this. And then guess what? If you disengage from it, then they give you a list over to the opposition, and they don't send a text. They call you. And I'm like, God, what do I need this for? A lot of stuff. Got all these apps. Telegram, Signal. That's another app. You got WhatsApp. You got Instagram. You got all these apps that you can plug into. But some of the worst are WhatsApp. Why? Because you got people around the world plugging into a different phone. And what are they doing? They find your phone number and add it into a list of 75 people. Oh, we're going to do cryptocurrency. Oh, we're going to do stock trading. Oh, we're going to do this. And then there's somebody adding your name in. You don't even know the person, but they're adding you in. So I have to go in there and do what? Find the person who added me in, block that person, then block the entire group. That way that person can't keep pulling me into stuff. These things we have now at our disposal. That's with the mobile phone. And then there's the Apple phone, like Dick Tracy comic books back in the 60s. Every Sunday in the Newsday paper was Dick Tracy. What was he doing? talking to his wired connection on his wrist. And I used to say, is that going to be true? And then my father, who was a radio and TV technician, he said, that's already in existence. And I go like, what? This is Dad, I'm only 8 or 9 years old. How come you don't have one? And he would say, government restricted, military restricted. So those things were already functioning back in the late 50s and the 60s and the 70s without our knowledge, already happening in the world. And then when they felt, okay, we can now track everybody, we could give it to a company to sell it to people. So we don't even realize that there are certain code numbers that can track us anywhere in the world through our cell phone number. And they'll say, oh, put this 3-digit number in pound, 3-digit number pound, and you can find out if you're being tracked. Well, you're already being tracked. They don't give you the digit that allows you to block the tracking. So it's like your cell phone is a quiet GPS for other people to manipulate your life. And then, of course, there are the computer games. And we remember the beginnings one. They were very, I'm gonna create a word, fossilistic. You had those games, you hit the ping pong back and forth and like the hockey stick, and then you had the football teams, the baseball teams with the circle. Now they're super sophisticated. They get a well-known athlete, football player, baseball or basketball player who's been in their league for how long? 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Put them in the studio, put these little attachments on them, and then tell them to make their regular basketball moves. And they're recording all of that. So they put it into a computer game, and now it's realistic. You got a Saquon Barkley running. You've got an old version of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Russell and Kyrie Irving and Iverson and Michael Jordan. You got all these people now in a computer setup. And then the worst of the worst on the internet, where hackers disguise themselves, criminals, other criminals, sex traffickers, and all these other people act like children and engage minors to interact with them, to meet them. I've had a client that was given to me. This was in maybe 2020. And one of my spiritual daughters in Texas had a friend who was missing their daughter. And the daughter was, I think, about 13, 14 years of age. I forget what state they were in at the time. But I taught my spiritual daughter how to use a pendulum. And she was letting me know what she thought she was getting. She was getting some of the information, but not all of the information. So when she gave it to me, and I was able to get a picture through her daughter's friend's mother of the young lady, I was able to tune in. And once I began to tune in, I began to see how this took place. They lived, the woman with her boyfriend at the time, lived in a house with her 3 children. So she had an older daughter, a younger daughter, and a small boy. The oldest was about 13. The second oldest was about 10. And then the youngest was about maybe close to 8. But they lived on a block where right across the street, literally, right across the street was a community park that opened up into a bigger park where you can see kids playing football, basketball, soccer, right? And this person that lured the oldest and the youngest out and the younger ones out. What happened to be a guy who looked like the late Prince, almost like him, little taller, but almost some of the same features as Prince. And he put himself out on the internet as a person who's seeking people to become like children's models, young teenagers. And what happened was this young girl was her body was more mature than most. And he got to this is what he got to do. He got to meet her in a park, got her to come out of the house when her mother was at work, come out of the house, bring her younger sister and younger brother with her. And what the guy did was he was slick enough not to meet them in the beginning, but he got her to send him a picture of herself, and she got a picture of him. He studied her motions, her actions, and saw exactly where she came from out of that house. And then, after about 3, 4 months of gaining her confidence in him, he eventually got her to meet him. And then, of course, he talked and he talked and he talked and he talked. And then, about that second, third, or fourth time of meeting her physically, got her to not pay attention to where her younger sister and brother was in that park and literally stole her away. He did his best to try to turn her into a young prostitute on the street. Fortunately, because of the power of meditation and prayer and just staying on it as much as possible, I was able to track him. In fact, I saw the bus that she got on, and he was slick. He would take her to like a McDonald's. I was able to describe the McDonald's, the exact location. He took her on a bus ride so she'd get accustomed to the bus. That's how slick he was. But he had watchers on the bus. So then eventually she got on a bus, people watched her, and they escorted her to a certain place. And it was basically an apartment complex behind a regular neighborhood where they were garden apartments. What kind of saved her was the other women that they put that young girl with to be out on the street at night, to be in certain sections. And one of those adult women started paying more attention and realized this young woman has no business being in that environment. But eventually, he put them in like a boarding house. And I was able, after about 3, 4 weeks, because it took that amount of time and energy, I was able to describe the boarding house and telling the mother what to look for and the house number. We got the street. He also, this guy was slick, he maintained a recording studio. And I said his recording studio is not far from there. But anyway, everything got back together, able to get the detectives and policemen there and get him arrested. But the reason why I say that is that was a longer version of manipulating someone. And the little girl, I would say little girl, she had to be angry about something. Turned out that she was angry about the mother dating this man where she wanted to be with her father instead of this man. And this man was in her house all the time. So that's the initial basis why she ran out there to be in this situation. These things happen all the time. Children are not on the internet just for educational purposes. Sometimes they're doing things they have no business doing, but someone is pulling them, say. Someone is pulling them and misleading them. And of course, it's up to the parents to monitor that child's activity. And now there are ways in which they can monitor the child's activity so they're not going to certain sites no matter what they try to do. And at some point, you can control their cell phones so that they don't go and do the same thing. But here's the thing, you've got the hackers and the criminal agents out there lurking, right? And what they're going to do is they're good at hijacking your personal information. But now there's deeper. We'll say I don't want to use the term dark all the time. So let's say I'll use the term, just stick with the criminal personalities that know how to use the internet. And they know how to gain control because they have hundreds of people doing it, just not one or two. They can gain control of your internet and guide you to certain websites. And we've seen it before. You get on a virus and it tells you, oh, you got to call this certain number. Turns out if you call that number, that's a hacker station. And then they manipulate your stuff and then they start downloading your stuff from behind the scenes. And there's the people who can block the scammers. They can block the scammers so well that they could get them to do their bidding and then erase their data out. And there's plenty of people that have done it. You can look them up on YouTube. They erase the data of the scammer. Now the scammer is all upset because all that information they have saved from around the world is now in someone else's pocket. The most important thing I want you to understand in all of this is, though, that you, myself, anybody can have your mind manipulated on the internet through your phone. I had a pen pal once. She was from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Very good person, very good personality. And what was so great about this person was, her and I were just writing back and forth letters to be friends at that time. No computers. She met a guy who was a high vibrational psychic metaphysical teacher. Not a well known person, but a person that was known within his community. And he was out in California. And he invited her to come out for a weekend or two. So she was able to take her dog. She had a little Scottish terrier. And I think she called him Holmes, as in Sherlock Holmes. She called him Sherlock. He answered to it. Anyway, they were out there, and she said they were in a big park, and he had at least pretty close to 50 people out in a circle, and they were vibrating this particular area with their energy, all 50 of them. He had done it for quite some time. However, he was unaware that he was very, very close to a military base location. And because he was that close and didn't understand the frequency of the work that he was doing, was manipulating or interfering with what the military intelligence agency was doing. In other words, they were picking up on the vibration of the people above ground in that area. He didn't know that he was very close to being on top or very near where they were doing their experiments. So she wrote me this letter that said, Francis, be very, very careful of what you are doing. And I said, well, most of the time I am. She said, no, please be very careful. My friend, my new boyfriend, he and I were at his apartment complex, large, like garden apartment complex, watching TV one particular Saturday or Sunday. And while they were watching TV, all of a sudden they saw a series of numbers and letters and symbols appear at the bottom of their TV screen. You know, the kind you get like in a straight line where you're trying to read a warning message, but they couldn't read this jibber jabber going at the bottom of the screen. So he kept going, well, what is that? And they were thinking, they were tuning in, they couldn't figure it out. So he got off of that particular station, major TV station, jumped on another one, then another one, then another one. This, in other words, these were equivalent to channel 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, and 11, and then public TV. And he kept seeing it. So then what he did, here was the slick thing. He jumped off of that and went on cable TV, and he still saw it. So now he's saying, okay, something's wrong here. So then what he did was he called a good friend of his that lived in the complex across the way. And he said, can you do me a favor? He says, sure. Can you turn to channel such and such? Tell me what you see at the bottom. His friend says, I don't see anything. So he went through all the numbers. His friend said, I don't see anything. He said, that's strange. I'm the only one that can see it. You can't see it? Well, thanks. He called somebody else up who didn't live in that complex, had them turn on the same stations. He was the only one that was seeing it. They weren't seeing anything. So then he said, okay, something's going on. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to just continue to watch TV. Maybe it'll go away. Well, it did stop for a moment. Then it started up again. Now he's leery. Why is it that he's the only one that can see this and no one else can? Well, while he's sitting there watching TV in his apartment with my friend who's his girlfriend, female partner, they get this knock at the door. Now, the way his apartment is set up, they can watch TV like a little ways either in the den or they could watch it in the living room, which is kind of behind the dining room area. And then the dining room's off to the side, but then you can look straight ahead and see the door, the hallway taking you to the door, passing right by the kitchen and the dining room kind of behind them, right? And the bedrooms being on the other side. Everything's on one floor. So now he doesn't go get up to go, but her dog jumps up and runs down the hallway. And she's saying, Sherlock, Sherlock, Sherlock. Well, the dog gets to the door, and all of a sudden, the dog begins to whimper and run so fast that the dog jumps over the couch, over them, and hides. She said that's never happened, even when her dog is with her. So he gets up and he goes to the door. When he gets there, there's some unsavory kind of stoic faces, about 4 or 5 people looking at him. And he said he did his best not to show fear, but he was certainly nervous because they came up with his name and then literally gave him a verbal threat. And a verbal threat is, if you show back up in that area again without permission, we know where your mom and dad lives, where your brother and sister lives, and we're going to give them a little visit. And that visit may be very disruptive to your life. So he was basically told either stop doing what you're doing or lose some very important people in your life. And of course, she said he had the nerve to question her, like, what are you talking about? He said, we'll give it to you this way. We know where your folks live, your siblings live. We'll take care of you. Then they won't see you. You need to stop. Don't go back there. And he closed the door. course, she said he's quite troubled coming back into the living room. Like, I don't know who these guys are. And then, because she's highly psychic and empathic, he describes what he saw. And she says, honey, that's pretty close to what they call the so called men in black. So, how were their faces? And he told her what the faces look like, very eerie, pale looking faces. And she decided with him not to ever go back to that location. But here was the kicker. Sometimes he would go to other locations, figuring, can't be any military stuff here. Then he'd get letters in the mail. Like we said, stop doing what you're doing. It's like, can't do anything. So obviously, this was a way of eventually breaking him of something that he had no knowledge of. In other words, he wasn't there to be disruptive to anything that they were doing. They assumed that he knew that he was being disruptive to whatever they were doing. Peace, Stoke culture. So these things were happening to him. Now, the reason why I bring that as a living example is because she said over the next 3 to 4 months, that happened during the summer. So by the time the fall came up, he wasn't himself. She said she'd come to visit him. He was agitated that she was there, even though he wanted her to be there. And they spent good time, but every now and then he'd get agitated about the slightest little thing that she would say. Well, she said eventually, Francis, he went from being agitated, where I just basically had to leave him alone because he was yelling and screaming at me. And I would speak to his friends, and his friends were receiving the same exact thing. He would blow up over anything. He went from being a happy go lucky guy, self assured personality to a person who had low self esteem, started smoking and drinking, started using hard, got way far away from his spiritual path to a point where he was now lost. He was now drained of anything that made him a great guy and a guy who was serving humanity. He was being manipulated constantly. She said he'd wake up in the middle of the night, said he saw images around him, not only in his sleep, in his dreams, walking around his residence. And the sad thing about it, she said, eventually he moved to a completely different area and it started up again. So there's people who understand who we are, what we do, and are always seeking, if they think that you are a threat, and what they attempt to do is misguide you, enslave you. And what are they enslaving first? Sometimes your physical body to get you to be totally exhausted, or sometimes get you to become forgetful when you know that you got a sharp mind, make you filled with and stress, can't sleep, and thoroughly agitated when you yelling and screaming at everybody. Basically, overcoming this, this, and this. In other words, you start hearing the wrong things. You start seeing the wrong things. You can't speak correctly. You can't think correctly. You're no longer a practical thinker if that's who you are. You're no longer this creative guy or woman if that's who you were. And if you do have some creativity, manipulate it so you're drawing pictures that make no sense to you, but are confusing to you, or have you worried about things you have no business worrying about. So, why am I saying this? We're living in that time and age where military people with good intentions manipulated. I remember some guys from high school in the military for 20 years get out. Then they got to go back to the base and do what? Be debriefed. In other words, all that stuff that they learned, they had to let go of it to the point that they could not remember what they had up here. Couldn't remember anything. Sometimes lost who they were. Couldn't remember. So these things do happen where the mind is overtaken. Your mind, our mind. We have to be careful. When someone takes over our mind, meaning our thoughts, our images, interrupt our universe, which is our subconscious mind, when that gets interrupted, severely interrupted, then you can't see anything outside yourself. All you see is confusion and chaos and more anger and more addictions and more of stuff that you will feel that you cannot control, because the next thing, once this is manipulated thoroughly, and this is manipulated and that's manipulated and this is manipulated, and your heart is overtaken, then your physical body is drained. So I said, your thoughts may not be your thoughts. Use meditation to claim your mind, body, and spirit matrix. You see, often, as much as we want to use positive statements known as affirmations and prayers that are positive, that come from your heart. Now, if you're disconnected from here to here, no prayer can really assist you because you're not connected to yourself first, and therefore not covered, so to speak. This is where subliminal messages are sent. That story is a true story about a gentleman receiving subliminal messages on his TV screen, and only his TV screen and no one else's. And what was that done for? If he could read what that actually meant, if he could read what that actually meant, then he would be really in control or considered a danger to other subservient type of underground type of groups. So sometimes positive affirmations help. Sometimes positive prayer. Sometimes actual rituals can be done to secure yourself, but still put you up against a brick wall. Then, of course, there are decrees that can free you. But time and time again, the thing that actually works best for you to gain control over yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, your physical body, your mind, all of you, is meditation. That's what will free you. Now, you might think, well, how is that true if all this is going on? Well, if you have a network of people to connect with, they can actually set up the meditation vibrationally for you. That means you could tune into the energy that they're putting out around you, around your auric field, and then you could sip it gradually and then reorient the way you think and change. But it's not an overnight success deal, not by a long shot. It is time and effort. But meditation will help you do at least a few things, especially if you're involved in meditating every day. Meditation will help you to claim and regain your mind, your universe in here, your thoughts. Why? Because the two biggest things in there are your pituitary gland and your pineal gland. Your pineal gland emanates from here, but actually through your eyes. So you get to see clearly for yourself again, past, present, and future. Your pituitary, underneath of the hood of the hypothalamus, I think it's called, or one of my students helped me to understand that a little bit more. That is connection to your crown. And your crown is a highway between you and higher dimensions. And what's happening now with energy moving very quickly around us, these new elements, these new levels or stages of ourselves are coming in. So we're at a war with something that's trying to overcome us and plant faster than what you could pull in, if that's their mission, could plant seeds of negativity, just like back there with 9/11 and other time frames, turning you into a sleeper where you're asleep, you have no idea that you might be living another life doing something else you have no business doing. So meditation can help us to claim, reclaim, and regain our mind and thoughts, what we are thinking about all the time. What is it that we are seeing image wise within ourselves? Meditation helps to control our emotions. That's the output of what we call our feelings. In other words, we won't be sitting on the curb crying, being angry, emotionally out and angry at ourselves, at our loved ones, at our connections, at our environment. Meditation helps to protect you in your entirety, as well as your body, and then aids you in controlling your spirit. In this sense, spirit, I want you to know, is your level of enthusiasm and your passion. See, we all got a passion. We're all passionate about something, but we're also compassionate as well. When we're passionate about something and we become more compassionate, we're bringing all those things that we're enthusiastic and positive about. As some people like to remind us, the word enthos, I believe, is a Greek word that means get riled up, get excited about spirit, about God energy around you. Reverend Ike used to teach it this way. Who is the prayer actually going to? Reverend Ike's teaching said, you're really, when you go within, you're not praying to some being outside of you. As he would say, some being in the sky with pie and ice cream on it. You're praying to yourself, the God within you. Who's the God consciously in you? The God consciously in you is known as your I am presence, your higher self, your godly self, the one who is omnipotent and omnipresence. In other words, always present, all powerful. You, me, your wife, your mom, your dad, grandma, granddad, even the little dog and cat got some spirit, has is conscious. So when we are passionate about ourselves and have more compassion for ourselves and others who don't even look like us or look like you, when we begin to have this sense of passion and compassion for the collective, for humanity, for your neighborhood, for your community, for your state, your city, your state, your town, wherever you live, you are helping to what? Save the world, helping it come back to itself. And most of all, beyond saving you from high blood pressure, anxiety and stress, low self esteem, changing Everything about yourself that meditation can help you do, help you connect into higher beings, ascension masters, ascendant masters, angelic forces, the spiritual community, the Deva kingdom, over gems and minerals and water and earth and animals and you name it. Beyond all of that, helping you to channel on a different frequency to pick up anything beyond yourself that you're not supposed to actually see or experience. But most of all, it gives you greater discernment. That means when you are able to discern for yourself what is right or wrong, you're in a good space. That means you're questioning things, and you're questioning things often. Why? Because you should. There used to be a phrase about the wise man and the fool. I don't remember it exactly, so I don't want to state it, but in so many words, is you would be foolish not to question everything that you hear. That means even something that I'm saying, if you don't question it, it may not be good for you. Because I could be telling you something that you have no business listening to, or you don't need to be bombarded by the words and feelings and emotions of today's message. If it doesn't gel with you, it doesn't gel, and it's okay. But there are other people, clusters of people, who are bombarding you even when you are asleep, who are bombarding you when you're minding your own business, or embodying, they're just sending so much stuff, bombarding you with so much stuff that it's supposed to do what? Create confusion. When something makes you confused, then what? You can't think for yourself. You give in. This is why it's good to go on a retreat every now and then. Go camping if you can. If that's your thing, go swimming if that's your thing. Go run and jog if that's your thing. Go to the gym if that's your thing. But if you're going to go to sleep, empower yourself before you do. Use your meditation to empower yourself, to clear yourself, to keep yourself free of negativity, toxic energy from individuals, relationships. Sometimes toxic people are in your family. There are some people who have grown up in households that are highly dysfunctional, and children are highly affected. One of my spiritual daughters, I think I have three now. Yeah, I believe I have three. Actually, more. I have maybe five or six, maybe a dozen. I got to keep up with it. But they would. This one was in Texas. This one was telling me how a little boy in her class goes around and punches all the other students, girls and boys. And then when he goes off into little boy's room, he's doing some things he has no business doing, like literally exposing himself on other children, urinating on another boy. And it turns out that when he goes home every day, his mother is in the house with other women and men. And what are they doing? High as a kite. They don't care if he eats, or sleeps, does his homework, or none of them. They don't care if he's playing. He has no connection to anybody. And what is he lacking most of all? He's lacking self esteem, self love, and being loved by adults. What? Because they don't have any issue. The only one who could give him something is his grandmother down the street. But sometimes her life can be occupied. So my spiritual daughter couldn't call the mother. She had to call the grandmother to come to the school to attend to him, to help work with him. But sometimes Teachers are supposed to do what? If they see that the child is somehow being mistreated or abused, they're supposed to call child protective services. But some of these places are so set up, teachers can't even participate in that. They're kind of blocked from it. These things have to be watched. Let your meditation, however you choose to do it, let it empower you so someone else is not controlling you. Let your meditation empower you so someone else is not controlling you, not trying to manipulate you, not trying to get you to go against yourself, your loved ones, close associates, be it business or neighbors. The more you can meditate, the clearer you shall become. The more you meditate, the clearer you shall become. I'll say it one more time. The more time you spend in meditation, which allows you to open yourself up on various levels through your chakras, realms of consciousness, to receive not only higher consciousness, but discernment along with that higher consciousness. Once you begin to do that, and you become very clear, now you have reclaimed this, these, this, heart, all the way down, back of your skull, crown. You've reclaimed it. Nobody can go in there and manipulate. So, let me give you a very quick, short, guided meditation. Then I'm going to sign off. Wherever you might be right now, I hope you are home. Hope you're in a place where you won't be really disturbed. I want you to create in your mind a beautiful golden white light that you can see here first, like a tiny flame. And as you maintain your rhythmic breathing of inhaling through the nose, releasing the breath through the mouth, you start forming an image, a remembrance in your mind of a golden white flame. Breathing in and out without rushing. In the center of that golden white flame, gold then white or white then gold, however you want to see it, is a little speck, a little flicker of light that's purple. And if you were to close your eyes, you begin to create or recreate from memory a golden flame with white around it or in it, and in the center, this purple flame flickering, pulsating. As it pulsates, it gets larger, which means the energy that it's in gets larger, and the energy of that gets larger. And those three flames are soothing to you. Gold to the body, purple to the nerve system, putting you in touch, all three putting you in touch with the Buddhic Christ like mind, where all you know is unity, feeling safe and being safe, being in the right place at the right time, knowing that oneness exists all at once for you. You no longer have to guess who is peering in on me, who is studying me, who is observing me. But you are in this comfort zone. And like a crown, you're able to slide this energy down. You're in a column of light. Now, this crown expands like a flower that begins to blossom. But in the column of light, the stem of the light, is the gold and the white and the purple. And then you start picking up other color rays, like royal blues, emerald greens. All these colors become luminous to you, active, organic, alive. They begin to tingle, and you can feel them in your throat and underneath your skin and your body. And this energy field is ascending you and expanding your horizons and expanding who you are on this earth plane. And you feel a sense of greater infinite oneness. You're in tune with everything. And from this moment, you see a beautiful, beautiful, soft pink light emanating up through your heart and into your breath. And you're able to radiate this unconditional love that's in you into the world around you. And you begin to know and feel and see this being real to you, not just a condition of realness, which is the word reality, but real to you, elevated. You are elevating yourself, elevating the spirit of who you are, the thoughts and feelings of who you are. Your emotions are clear. Your ideas about yourself have greater clarity than you've ever had before. You now have a purpose for your passion. Or I should say it this way: what you are passionate about is your purpose. In ancient India, your karma, the ability to balance out your life, becomes your dharma, your purpose. Balancing your life so more unconditional love can materialize in your life, so that your higher self is flowing through you as you are flowing through your higher self. As you embrace that energy of this short meditation, I just have this brief announcement. If you're here in the city of Albuquerque on the weekends, be sure to come by and experience my Creative Pathwork meditation class at Resonant Essentials Esoteric School of Metaphysics, located at 2703 Broadbent Parkway, Northeast, Suite J, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, zip code 87107. You can go on our website, www.resonant, Resonant essentials, essentials.com, and look at the events that are happening there. The calendar will pop up automatically, and you can see everything that's happening on Saturdays, on Fridays, on Thursdays, on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Sundays. The founder of Resident Essentials is Michelle Vidal, very good friend of mine, very positive person, excellent teacher of metaphysics and esoterical things. Usually every Thursday. I try to get here at 1 o'clock. I didn't make it at 1 Mountain Time. Didn't make it at 1:30. Didn't make it at 2, but got on here at 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time with my podcast, Clear Blue Radiance, where I talk about metaphysical and spiritual things in a very down-to-earth, practical way so that you can comprehend it, understand it, and take it out into the world if you so choose. There are many things happening in the world. Guess what? It's not just me, it's you as well. Find a group of people to connect with and build your skills, metaphysical, spiritual skills. Build up your philosophy of who you are. I want to thank you for your time. And as I always say, what should I say? I'm a spiritual counselor, been one for over 40 plus years. I'm a numerologist. I am a first and foremost meditation teacher since 1972 or 3 while I was still in college after learning how to meditate in the middle of my freshman year. But I delved into it, and eventually Creative Pathwork Meditation Series was founded in 1996. But I was working it all that time. I'm the founder of the Circle of Grace One. So I want you to Nanu Nanu. Yeah, Holly. So I want all of you to enjoy yourselves as the weekend comes up. We have our first Saturday of October every year. We have this International Hot Air Balloon Festival that goes on, that's been happening for over 50 plus years, and I've been in my field over 50 years. So I look forward to connecting with you. If you want to email me at iam.circleofgrace1 at gmail.com. That's iam.circleofgrace1 at gmail.com. If you need information about my classes, go to www.circleofgrace with the number one at the end .us with a single forward slash, so it doesn't bounce all over the place. And you can go to my website. I got 12 links up there, and you can see, click on every link and see what the heck am I doing. I was supposed to have a class starting on, I believe, October the 2nd. I don't know if it's going to jump off now. And everybody sign up, but also I didn't have a chance to really advertise it online. It was my signature system for a 6 week online program called 5 Point Creative Pathwork System. It's how to use affirmations, prayers of your own, affirmative prayers, as well as affirmations that you create, how to write a decree, and of course, how to meditate and put it all into motion. Those things are the creative 5 points, which are vessels of yourself to be able to utilize to assist yourself and others. And that was going to go for 6 weeks. Um, but email me, give you a discount. In fact, by November, I will have a 6 part video series, half the price of the online course at least, so that you can have all 6 videos to work with. I have other things going on as well. Well, anyway, divine blessings to all of you, divine grace blessings. My grace is your grace. And as Akhenaten and Nefertiti, Mother Grace, Grandma Charlotte, and myself like to say, until next time, remember that divine grace is a blessing as we're alive and well in the age of remembrance. Look forward to hopefully seeing you next week, and I hope to come on a little earlier rather than later. But if not, I'll even do a pre-recorded video. So take good care of yourselves, love yourself unconditionally as well as others, and keep meditating because this is the time you got to raise your frequency of expressing, putting it out there into the world. Raise the vibration within yourself, release it frequently out into the world. Take care now. Hope to see you real soon. I'm going to go have some sweet potato soup. I made it last night. I've completed it. I can smell it. I'm going to go enjoy it. Take care now. Hope to see you real soon.